Welcome to another edition of The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something I know a lot of us struggle with: how to actually achieve lasting health transformations without, feeling completely overwhelmed in the process. If you've ever tried to totally overhaul your lifestyle only to find yourself exhausted and burnt out a week later, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to look at the fascinating science of microhabits and how these incredibly small actions can yield massive, compounding results over time.
So why do so many health transformations fail? I mean, it's incredibly frustrating, right? Most of us think that to really change our health, we've got to make these big, dramatic changes. We're talking intense 2-hour workouts, crazy strict diets, basically a total lifestyle overhaul. But if you look at the behavioral research on habit formation, it consistently shows that this hardcore approach almost always leads to burnout. You end up relying on sheer willpower, and let's be real, when life gets stressful, that willpower inevitably cracks.
But the answer to this actually lies in a complete paradigm shift. It's called the USLOOBI walk philosophy, and it's centered entirely on sustainable health one step at a time. This is pretty much the complete opposite of that intense overhaul we were just talking about. The core idea here is that small, consistent, daily actions actually compound into real, lasting change. It is not about doing everything perfectly every single day. It's just about doing very small things consistently.
Starting way smaller than you think you need to is literally the secret to success here. When we look at intensity versus consistency, well, intensity might start strong, but it burns out super fast. One of the biggest reasons habits fail is just that people start way too big. But behavioral science tells us that if you shrink a habit down, say simply walking for 5 minutes instead of forcing a 30-minute run, or doing just 10 squats instead of a grueling full-body workout, you dramatically increase the odds that the habit actually sticks. In those early stages of habit formation, consistency matters so much more than intensity.
Okay, let's jump right into our first phase, mastering your morning rhythm.
Let's actually walk through what an ideal first 30 minutes of your day looks like. At 0 minutes, the very first step, you want to wake up at the exact same time every day. Now, a lot of people believe their bedtime determines their sleep quality, but in reality, your circadian rhythm resets primarily based on your wake time. Waking up consistently, and yes, that means on weekends too, trains your internal clock, which leads to much more stable energy throughout the day. Then, within 10 to 30 minutes of waking up, you need to step outside. And that brings us to circadian alignment. This is all about synchronizing your internal clock with natural light to regulate your hormones and sleep cycles. Getting just 5 to 10 minutes of morning sunlight outside isn't just about waking up, it basically acts like a starting gun for your sleep cycle later that night. Exposure to natural light within the first 30 minutes of your day actually helps regulate your melatonin production for the evening. It's an incredibly small habit, but it meaningfully improves your circadian alignment and ultimately your sleep quality.
Next up, Section 2, moving through your day.
Now, prolonged sitting is linked to a slower metabolism and increased health risks, completely independent of whether you exercise regularly. But the fix for this is astonishingly small. All you have to do is stand up and move for just 1 minute every hour. This brief interruption improves your circulation and directly combats the negative effects of a sedentary day. Secondly, fix your posture. Prolonged screen use causes this chronic neck and shoulder tension that people so often mistake for unrelated health issues. So make small, conscious corrections, sit tall, relax your shoulders. It makes an absolute world of difference over time. Now, this brings us to one of the most powerful habits in the entire USLOOBI walk guide: 5 minutes. Specifically, taking a simple 5-minute walk right after you eat your meals. Just notice how incredibly low the barrier to entry is here. We aren't asking for a sweaty hour-long cardio session. We're talking about just 5 minutes of walking after a meal. So why does this work? Well, it's actually a pretty simple metabolic hack. Your muscles absorb glucose from the bloodstream way more efficiently when you're moving. Taking a short walk after eating helps regulate your blood sugar by encouraging your muscles to basically draw that glucose right out of your blood. This simple 5-minute habit reduces post-meal blood sugar spikes. And over time, avoiding those spikes supports much better metabolic health and actually leads to less fat storage. It's a tiny physical investment for a massive biological return.
All right, which brings us to our final section, setting up for sleep. Diet and exercise seem to get all the attention in weight loss advice, but sleep quality plays a vastly underrated role. Poor sleep raises cortisol, which is a stress hormone that actively encourages your body to store fat, particularly around the midsection. So prioritizing deep, quality sleep, and we're not just talking about clocking hours in bed, but actual restorative sleep, is hands down one of your most powerful tools for healthy weight management.
So how do we actually guarantee that deep sleep?
It starts with step 1, practicing deep, slow breathing right before bed. What this does, in step 2, is activate your parasympathetic nervous system, shifting your body entirely out of its daytime stress response. Doing just a few minutes of this breathwork provides an immediate sense of calm. And that leads us directly to step 3, achieving deep, long-term sleep quality because it perfectly prepares the physical body for true recovery.
So look, none of the habits we've covered today require any sort of major lifestyle upheaval. From consistent wake times to those post-meal walks and deep breathing, each one is small, it's specific, and it's backed by a really clear biological reason for why it works. Remember, the goal isn't to adopt all of these at once, but just to let small changes compound over time. So I want you to ask yourself honestly, which 5 minutes will you claim today to take your health back? You really don't need a whole new life. You just need a new 5 minutes. So, will you take that first small step today? Start there, start small, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.